So the focus was on edge quality
Hmm.
and values.
Right. I think we talked about unifying shapes as well for composition.
Mhm.
Um, it's always been a struggle of mine, values. So,
Can you identify? I mean, values is a big
yeah.
space. Now I know, like you've talked about, like some of the technical qualities of value application and how you wanted to adjust that. I think you've done a lot of good work in terms of like figuring out how to get even tones and so on. Are there other aspects of value that you feel like are in that, are subheadings in that my problems with values conversation?
Mm, that's a good way to put it, actually. Subheadings. Um, I think one thing is like what I said I was working on is edge quality. So,
Yeah.
I'm just not used to it. And I think the other thing is um, relative values.
Hmm.
I think I'm also just not used to it. It's kind of interesting to me that I'd gone this long without thinking too hard on about it.
When you
Um,
say relative values, you mean sort of value relativity, as in like the comparative nature of like this value versus like that kind of thing, or a
yeah,
different. Okay,
yeah,
like how to
um,
compare. Yeah, got it.
yeah. As when I try to, I don't know the right vocabulary for it, but key the values in the darkest
Yeah.
areas. I don't know if there's a disconnect in my brain and what I'm doing on the paper, but
Hmm.
I can't seem to get to a, a workflow that feels good. Like I can see that areas in the reference are darker, but when I translate it to paper, it's hard for me to think like, okay, this is going to be a 4B or this is going to be a 7B or 8B.
Mm.
Um, so a lot of the time I go lighter than what I think would look good.
Yeah.
So in this one, in this image, I decided to just go to the darkest value that I had, which was an 8B.
Hmm.
And I said to myself, okay, just look for the darkest part in the photograph and let's put 8B there. And then let's try to just key everything um, relative to that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's my first time doing something like that. Um,
Well, it doesn't
so
sound like a bad idea. I mean, there's kind of two phases of evaluation to make. One is the idea good, and then two is the execution good.
mhm.
Yeah, the idea seems fine. The Eventually the execution, with a good idea, the execution catches up to the good idea. If that makes sense,
Mhm.
right? Um, so to me, like it sounds okay. The in practical application, like I get the value structure in the drawing. Um, I think it suffers a little bit in the midtones, like how the midtones relate to the darks is maybe where I have a pause, because I feel that like eventually, these masses of values, like I kind of get how they're connected to each other. But the next phase, we said you were talking about edges. Really, edges and halftones are not too dissimilar to each other in that, well, edges will inevitably include a halftone concept, like a dark halftone, for example. If we come to this edge, you're not going to make it that gradient, sort of character without the incorporation of some halftone. And
Mhm.
so, what do you do about that vis-a-vis like the comparison of that to, say, the lightest light or even the darkest dark? Um, in this one, I think that looks to me as the biggest outlier. Like what idea got us here? Because that is sort of, to my mind and to my eye, kind of antithetical to what your kind of stated focus was.
Yeah. It's like a bit too hard of an edge for a soft turn.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's literally the exact same edge as you have on the other side. If anything, it's almost a harder edge than what this one is.
Hmm.
Now, I'm saying this and I'm like bashing you over the head with it. That's not the
Okay.
point. The point is that it's 180 degrees opposite. Now, when I was studying, and I would make edges like that, and I believe me, at length and for years, I did. It was out of a desire to be specific or to be accurate.
Hmm.
So I would simultaneously have in my mind the idea that I wanted to make a soft edge, but I would want that soft edge to be as accurate as possible. At the end of the drawing session, I would have a hard edge. So I do think that there's a kind of there is an accuracy of character that at times can supersede an accuracy of shape. And being able to identify the places where that is present and salient is important.
Hmm.
Um, because not all accuracy comes from, deriving a point in space. Make
Right.
sense?
Yeah. I think what you're saying is in when trying to place it correctly, sometimes it doesn't look right.
Yeah. Or rather, really, almost you're just focused on totally the wrong thing. The important
Mm.
thing uh, here is the turn. That's the thing.
Hmm.
That's the signal. The noise is in this case, oh, what is the accuracy of the shape? Like I talk about this sometimes in relationship to like when you get to like really small kind of tight areas that have like tiny transitions, like around the outside corner of the mouth or something.
Hmm.
Where I'll say like the turn is more important than the shape, meaning like it's the transition, it's the character of the thing, rather than the two-dimensional like flat design of the thing.
Hmm.
And that's what I think you're not using in this equation is that particular kind of or indexing for that particular kind of specificity, a specificity of character.
I think that's fair to say.
Cool. Um, and it's not that it's any comfort whatsoever, but I only know this because I did it so long. Because I think I have already kind of a critical mindset about things, and then that was like put on steroids by my education. Because in addition to my own critical inner monologue, you would get multiple daily external critical monologues about your work. So everything about my work became what was wrong with it. Um,
Mm. Hmm.
so you get this, you become a hammer and everything's like a nail. You only look at your work through the lens of like what's wrong with it, which turns you into somebody who wants to create like critically unassailable work, which is the tightest, most specific thing that you can possibly make. Um, and what suffers is things like really good edge quality because it's a nebulous thing. It's difficult to put your finger on exactly when it lands or not. Or rather, let's say it's not exactly a measurable thing.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of edge that I would expect to find in an area like that.
Yeah.
And figuring out like where that happens and where that takes place. There's even opportunities down here where I feel like there's two separate and distinct edge qualities, like this one and obviously the one next to it here.
Hmm.
They're totally distinct from each other, totally particular, and here treated virtually the same.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um, Now, is that I tend to think edges especially are a problem of premise, not a problem of execution, because I mean in reality, it's no harder to make a soft edge than it is to make a hard edge. In paint, maybe that's slightly different in that I think it's probably slightly easier to make a hard edge in paint than it is to make a soft edge. You kind of have to work for a soft edge.
Interesting. I am not so familiar with paint, so
I'm not as much these days either.
oh.
It's a funny thing that I feel like I've no, I mean like I genuinely trained for my whole sort of student career and my professional career to be a proficient oil painter, and I've not I'm not in any way bragging about this, but I'm a proficient professional oil painter. Like I can execute and make an oil painting look like the way that I want it to look. However, my native language is drawing. Like when I think in drawing terms. When I dream, I dream in drawing. You know, like that's the language where I'm at my most creative. Despite the fact, you know, like I said, I have all this accrued ability in oil paint. I'm sure one day there would be like a swing back around in another direction, but I feel so attached to drawing right now. It's almost just ironic that I bothered to learn to paint so well. Uh,
Interesting.
which again, it sounds very braggy. I'm only just saying this from a practical perspective.
Oh no, I don't think it sounds like you're boasting much at
Mm.
all. I remember I was watching Idiosyncratic podcast and I noticed that you were painting in a couple of newer ones.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm doing it because it's more photogenic.
Really?
Like oil painting is more fun to watch than drawing, I think.
I could see that. It develops a bit faster, maybe.
Exactly. Like it's
Yeah.
the first like 10 to 20 things you do on the surface of a painting. It looks like, whoa, what's happening? It's crazy. Whereas like a drawing is a really slow burn at first.
I did like the idea that you were drawing and your co-host was painting.
Hmm.
Um, because you
I just
could
gotta make it
kind
more
of see.
fun. I gotta make it more fun to watch.
Yeah, but I can kind of sense when you're having fun too in the podcast, and I think
Hmm.
that's also a big part of the um part of the appeal.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, no, it's cool to hear people watch it. It's like this sort of pipe dream Michael and I had, and you know, just thought, well, yeah, let's fucking do it and see what happens.
Yeah, I usually watch it while I'm drawing. You'll see at the bottom of this image of my drawing here, I wrote down I was watching
Ah,
Mario
yeah.
Robinson.
Embracing
Chaos. That's chaos.
chaos in
Yeah.
art. Yeah.
And I think maybe you said this or maybe Mario said this. Mediums can set you free. I think
Hmm.
he was talking about switching mediums and feeling how they can take you different places. I think it was
Yeah.
watercolor or something.
Yeah.
I thought that
Yeah,
was kind of
that
interesting.
sounds like a Marioism. Mediums can set you free. I love it, man. He's such he's such a deep guy. Like he's always ready for a deep dive on whatever.
Yeah. And I'm on
When I was living in Jersey City, we'd go like get tandoori chicken together.
oh yeah,
Because I live near Little India, and we both just fucking love tandoori chicken.
nice. I
Yeah,
really like Indian food as well. So good.
nice. Um, right. So I want to look at the other drawing as well because, well, obviously because you sent it, but um, because it has like less value development, but I think also the source image has like a different value concept that it starts with. Um, so in response to like what you had to say about the previous drawing, you feel that's reflected in this as well.
Um, I think I misparsed what you just said.
Um, you were in talking about this drawing.
hmm
you said that you felt like uh, what was it? Like, well, all right, I'll give you my impression then. That the value concepts themselves work, but then maybe the execution of it, had its own challenges or whatever. Uh, this one, I don't see it coming out of the same value thinking. So I was curious as
Yeah,
to like what your reflection was, what idea you started with when you made this.
right. I think I would put it like in the previous drawing, I decided to go in straight with the 8B to see how I could manage my value range that way.
Hmm.
With this one, I thought to start the opposite way, which was with two H's and then gradually work my way up. But I didn't get past 2B, I think. It just felt so, I don't know what a good word for this is, but like it felt like um, I wasn't making progress.
Hmm.
And I know that we talked about how the if you're going to develop values in graphite, it's going to take a while. I
Hmm.
feel like I was doing it so inefficiently that it was going to take forever.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah.
so,
I get a little bit of that sense here with like to me there's a this is a pretty good like technical term for this, but it escapes me at the moment. But wherein there is um, a disparity between the design concept versus like the production capacity. Um, when you slowly build up, there's a tendency for the design to get very complex, right? Meaning that
mm,
instead of like 10 shapes, you have 1,000 shapes.
hmm
Once you reach that place and your value development is like at a like low scale, you have created an enormous difficulty for yourself in that you either A, need to draw around all of the shapes, right? So instead of like one big blanket of value, you have to draw 1,000 tiny little pieces of value. Um, or alternatively, you need to destroy some of the design to accelerate the value application. Um, that's what I see in this one. Unless this drawing stays as a super limited value scale, it has gone to a place that renders it relatively inefficient vis-a-vis like value development.
mm,
And I say that just based on the amount of like the quantity of shapes that we find, certainly in the hair, but even also in the features for that matter. Does that make
mm.
sense?
Yeah, I think you said that there's a lot of shapes, so trying to manage values in all of those shapes is going to be difficult. So it might be better to simplify.
Hmm.
Um, did you say that that's about what you said?
Pretty much.
Okay,
Rather than difficult, I would just say time consuming. I mean, it will be difficult. Drawing is
I see.
difficult. Everything about drawing is difficult. But time consuming was the issue for me in the sense that
Mm,
I feel like, you know, drawing already takes for fucking ever. If
uh-huh.
we also make it so that like the laborious nature of our process also takes forever, then we're kind of doubling down on how tough it is to make drawings.
Hmm.
Like I used to not really believe in it so much as a value in the sense that like efficiency. It was actually a Michael Klein thing.
Mm,
Um, I heard him talking about painting and like being efficient and stuff, and it was at a time when I think I was still in school, and I just thought at the time, oh, well, is efficiency the value, or is like artistic nature the value? Because if it's artistic nature, it shouldn't really matter how long it takes.
hmm
Right? I mean, if it's great and it took longer, then that doesn't mean that it should have taken shorter. It's great. Anyway, the point that you realize eventually is that obviously life is finite. So even if you
Yeah.
want it to be like really refined, you still need to find the most efficient way to do that. Because if you don't, you're not going to get out all the things that you want to get out. On top of which, then there's like motivational factors in the sense that, like, as an artist, as a student, whatever, you need like a feedback loop. You know,
Hmm.
I never realized this more than when I was writing a book. It was like it's kind of the longest form project I think I'd ever done in my life. It was, 6 months. I mean, 7 months. I mean, depending upon when you put the end point of the project, when I finished writing the book or when I actually got the physical copy of it. Um, uh, to a year of like pouring in effort and work with no tangible feeling of return. I mean, I had an advance payment, but that's not really money is just the thing. But like the feeling that something's happening in the work, other than just pouring all of your effort into it. I feel that way about drawing. Like really laborious, long-term processes have this like inertia that occurs when our feeling of momentum ebbs, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And that's something we need to like really closely manage in ourselves because we're a finite resource. Like really, we're probably the finite resource. Everything else can be had. You can get more paper, you can get more pencils, but like getting more of your own sense of like motivation and momentum in your work, if you have that, everything else is fungible.
Hmm.
Anyway, it's something I think a lot about because it's a thing that we easily discount. Um, is like what our mentality and psychology is within the process.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think that's easy to do. I think you said also in the context of learning, or maybe you said it's more important then, but there's not a lot of thought about it then. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like professional artists would feel it very strongly because they'll have commissions and stuff. I can't say
Mm.
that I know what that feels like, but
Mm. Yeah, the whole commissioning space is kind of an interesting one because I kind of simultaneously feel like um, there's a way to do it right, but I don't think I see many people doing it the right way.
hmm.
Um, Now, I don't want to be one of these sort of like, armchair quarterbacks, like, um,
Uh-huh.
but I'll say that like to be in an industry, or no, that's the wrong way to put it. As an artist, to be like successfully be a thing, you need an identity. So being an artist who's like all an artist and then you take commissions on the side means that you're not going to be very attuned to how to do commissions, nor are people going to be very attuned to commissioning you. So the commissions you're likely to receive are going to be for you an outlier and kind of an awkward thing, um, both from your own performative perspective, but also from like customer acquisition. Um, I don't know why. Like, if I wanted to be a big commission artist, I think the first thing I would start to do is take low cost, fast commissions, and get like as many as I can. At which point you'd become the commissions guy, right? You'd have a wealth of evidence of taking commissions, even if the outcome of them is like meh. Your colleagues might have opinions and thoughts on that, but the people that like your work will like your work. Um, then at a certain point, obviously, you sort of scale up the cost of things and you maybe take less and less. But by that time, you've cultivated an audience of people that know you as the commissions guy. People know me as the Patreon guy. You've
Hmm.
asked somebody, Stephen Bauman, the next word out of their mouth is Patreon. That's what your identity needs to be, I think, to thrive as a business, as an artist. It's effectively branding, isn't it? Except
Hmm.
it's not, doesn't involve fonts necessarily or like, $1 million graphic design contracts that give you an identity. It's just what you do and what you say you do and how people associate you. Um, yeah, anyway, I just and then at that point also, I think what you're doing is solving another problem of the commission world, which is uh, people need to commission you because they like what you do, not because they like what they want, right?
Mm.
Like some commission clients want you to be their hands. So maybe they like Nick Alm's work, but they're commissioning you. So they want a Nick Alm outcome, which is their artistic taste. It has
Mm.
nothing to do with you. Um, at that point, you're fucked because you're
Oh,
already like climbing uphill against your own kind of nature, and that's when you hear artists complain, "Oh, I hate commissions or this or that." It's usually because the commissioner is not commissioning them. You know what I mean? Like they just need a guy that does a thing, to do the thing that they can't do. They want that other thing.
yeah.
Um, Whereas I love Julian's work. I want to know how Julian sees this subject. That's a different prospect, right? Because at that point,
Hmm.
you have your vision has merit, and then it's kind of a quite a balanced relationship. Those are the only commissions I've ever done that I thought this seems like a good gig. But again, it totally comes out of identity. If they hadn't seen years of my work and loved years of my work, they wouldn't know the thing to love. I would have no proof of concept, you know?
Hmm. That's
Anyway,
so,
sorry, it's a long rant about commissions, but
no, that's okay. I've never thought
mm,
about it in that way before.
mm,
That when you said some commissioners, some clients want just to use your hands for
mm,
their vision rather than wanting your vision.
yeah. Yeah, and I think that's where so many artists have like a lot of frustration built up about commissions. I mean, and I've been there, you know what I mean? Like I've taken bad commissions. I know what they feel like. So it's not at all out of ignorance that I say there's a better way. Um, for all that it's worth, like I look at, I want to sell my own work. I mean, I'm kind of committed to this idea. I don't love the idea of galleries. It's not that I'll never work with one again, but I just think that the prospect is has like kind of a low index on several things that I value very highly. Um, so it's not like super attractive to me. Um, but the person I've seen that best exhibits this idea is the way Nick Uribe has done it. Um,
Hmm.
for years he's become the guy who makes the stuff that you buy on his website. He makes a thing, then it's available. It gets available, and then somebody buys it. What people don't seem to point out about that's so genius is that one, it's almost a 100% sales rate because he sells them at, or at least especially when he started, he sold everything at a very low rate, right?
Hmm.
Like I think he started out, everything was $250. Anything he did, $250, which is an insane price. I mean,
Hmm.
like I know we don't all have $250 laying around. I get that, but like plenty of people do. And at a certain point, like if you love his work, that's the easiest $250 $250 you'll ever spend. The decision is almost made for you. And
Yeah.
that's brilliant, right? Because that changes the dynamic completely in art purchasing. Like what is like the thing we feel like is the hardest is convincing somebody of the value. The value proposition here knocks you over the head with it like a hammer. Yeah, it's clearly worth that. But what's happening psychologically is that we're developing a relationship with that interface. He makes a thing, he posts it, it's sold. So now what am I thinking? I like his work. I know where to buy it. And if I don't act fast, it will be gone.
Hmm.
Now, you could say, oh, that only exists at that $250 level. Well, that's not true because over the years, he has advanced his prices and it still kind of has more or less the same dynamic. That things still sell. That's him building a market. He made his own market, right? It took years, but he made his own market. And I think that's really brilliant. Um, Now, he like it fits very much his working style because he works fast, or he's very direct, and there's not a lot of like necessarily refinement in the work. So he's able to produce enough that like for my drawings, for example, I never exactly do that because that level is not where my vision is at. Like I like something more refined, so I have to be necessarily like in a slightly higher price bracket just based on my time. But the whole notion of it, I think, is absolute genius, and I adapt as much of it as I can to what I do.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess
Mm.
everyone has their own solutions
Mm.
to that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we got very distracted from the drawing thing.
Sorry.
Not that I think it was a bad digression. I think it was a good digression.
Yeah, I think so.
Um, the other thing, the thing that I see in this one, it's like the furthest off, right? Like I usually, I'm looking at a drawing and I think, what is the one thing that if you did immediately would make the drawing the most better?
Hmm.
It's not really a word, but or a phrase, but I think it's the application of halftone across form. You've got essentially a drawing wherein you have values on one side and totally the other side of a form being exactly the same, and it massively flattens out the drawing, which on one level uh, might feel like it doesn't, or might not feel like it inhibits your ability to draw better. Um, but my opinion would be that it completely does because drawing is a lot about recognition. And I think when we see something very flat, that flatness, unbeknownst to us, translates as an abstraction, right? Which distances it from what we're seeing here, which is not abstract. What we're seeing here is very real. Um, and so the more kind of allusions to reality that we can make, like the more similarity we're going to be able to derive, and therefore the clearer the observations, or the more salient the observations, in terms of like getting one to look like the other. So adding that halftone in on that right hand side shores up that pushes the light further to the left and makes this drawing overall kind of more recognizable.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so simple that it kind of feels dumb of me not to not have thought to do that.
I think they call it the French call it the wit of the staircase.
A staircase? The
Yeah,
stair.
yeah, yeah. I know. There's several different phrases. I think in America, it's referred to as backdoor wit. Does
Huh.
it ring any bells?
No. I feel like
Uh,
that sounds familiar, but
it's the thing that like so after the party when you're leaving and you're in the staircase going down the stairs to the exit.
hmm.
That's when you think of the thing you should have said.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, that's a very familiar feeling to me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Same. Oh my
I
God,
see.
too much of it. Chronic staircase wit. Um, but it's I think it's like that a lot of times when we do things in drawings. And I mean I do this to myself a lot. I go like, Jesus, it took me this long to remember that's the thing I needed to do. Uh, it's just funny how it works. I don't think any of us like necessarily escape it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's so true when whenever we come to these meetings and I see the drawing and the reference side by side, I think to myself,
Mm.
"Oh my God, why did I place the blouse there? It's like it's 2 inches off."
Mm.
And the proportions are all over the place. I feel like it's seeing it in this context is so it feels so different from seeing it in person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I know for sure. Like, obviously, a lot of artists will use an interface like that to help. I mean, it's
Yeah.
kind of a little bit the site size thing. It's not far off from like what that is as a training tool. I mean, literally have them kind of side by side and look at exactly what they are in relationship to each other.
Yeah.
It can be a very powerful tool. Uh, I think used in moderation, because you can get a little bit obsessive about um, trying to like kind of copy shapes,
Hmm.
uh, which there are worse things that you can do in drawing, obviously. But I I'm not sure if training to copy shapes is like particularly efficient uh, in terms of yeah, like how to get better faster.
Yeah, I think it's really I see that often when I browse Reddit and I'm on the Learn to Draw Reddit and stuff. Some people will say, "Oh, use a grid and you'll learn how to draw better."
Hmm.
But, you know, it's a tool to copy the shapes.
Yeah.
And I feel like you're not going to learn anatomy that way or
Hmm.
proportions. You'll learn how to
Yeah.
copy better, but that's not always the goal.
Yeah, like it's, every kind of training is a little bit, constrained by its own like proposed outcome, right?
Hmm.
Like there are, ironically, I think, and you're totally right about your statement there, and I agree with it wholeheartedly. Um, uh, I find that, for example, like the way I trained, which was very much the opposite of that, it left a lot to be desired in terms of like rendering stuff, for example. Like rendering out detail. It's just not a part of, what you get at the Florence Academy. It's all like big brushes and ultra simplified values. That's got its own kind of shortcomings as well. I think that sort of window shading approach, certainly you get at GCA, but even, gridding something out and like rendering it sort of square by square, um, you know, that kind of like technique or finesse is not something I find often called for in my work. But every now and again, there's moments where I just need to get in and fiddle until something feels really, really nice and round. And I think that's probably exactly where that process is indexed. Like everything is get in there, get fiddly, and and sort of render something out. Hmm. Yeah, the lighting on the nose, I think, is kind of interesting here. Um, and that's maybe one of those cases where I'm using interesting as a stand-in for I'm not sure about it.
Yeah.
Um, to know if you're
I don't know why it looks like that. I don't remember it looking like that in the drawing. But I do remember coming in there with a pencil to kind of communicate that this is a down turning
hmm,
um plane. But I don't it should not be that dark. I think that's pretty clear.
hmm.
Um
Well, the thing that strikes me, well, there's kind of two things. Some of them are a little bit what's the word? Formulaic, but that doesn't mean unimportant. Um, in that you have obviously the nostril here. Of course, up to a certain point, we're going to have an ambient occlusion that is derived from that opening, right?
mhm.
So treating what is below the sort of line of the nostril, treating that differently from, for instance, the value above it, naturally is going to give like a sense of form. It's going to make one thing pop out and the other thing kind of fade away. Um, so exchanging a little bit the values in those two regions, I think would make like much better looking nose. Now, I don't not see where you're coming from with the way you made it. Um, but I also know that there's like this much better way uh, that means I'm struggling to say this because I'm going back and forth in between telling you need to draw it like it should be, not like it is, but also that the way that it is represented here, not without that. I mean,
Mhm.
when we look at the plane shift here, I can make a strong argument that that plane is a little bit darker than what the one below it is. I can make a strong argument that here. I get a sense of that ambient occlusion coming out, despite the fact there's a little form that kind of runs over it as well. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Yeah. I think in my head, I just think, yeah, there's reflected light there, so it could definitely be lighter on the underside.
Mm,
Um, so it's kind of, yes, it's a down facing plane, so it might be darker, but
mm,
I mean, light isn't that simple, so you kind of have to pay more attention, I suppose.
mm. Yeah, it's that I noticed that there's like a increasingly, I think, that we do draw things the way that we know them. Despite the fact, I mean, I'm sure you're familiar, we've heard the argument, that, versus what things are versus, what we think they are or what they're supposed to be or whatever. And it's presented always as this like dichotomy. But my suspicion is that it's kind of a false dichotomy. Um, because I think we see what we know. So we're only able to see it as we know it. So to
Mhm.
say that there's a space between drawing it as you see it or drawing it as you know it, I'm not sure that that's a distinction that's possible to make.
Yeah, I think I agree with you there.
Yeah.
You
So
won't be able
it's
to see what
okay.
you don't know to look for. I think we talked about that a few times.
Yeah. So like when I'm looking at that nose and I'm saying, you have to draw it a bit as you know it rather than how it is. Well, I'm the one. I'm guilty there in creating that false dichotomy.
Mm.
Um, but it's maybe just kind of a complex out of not wanting to say you just need to draw the nose, better, and like you need to see it better, know it better. Um,
Hmm.
uh, but it is a kind of a bit of a formulaic presentation that I would make. I mean, obviously, 99.99999% of nodes that we see are gonna be like this, on a vertical head, downward facing plane, projecting outward from the face. I have right now this model that I'm working with. We're doing a lot of kind of like heavy concept stuff. This one where like her head is literally hanging upside down. I
Well,
say that as the only nose that I'll ever draw upside down. The vast majority of noses will fit this formula. Um, and it's like obviously a very effective one, and every feature kind of has its own like set of formulas that most often work with them. But this sort of slightly more lit lower plane ambient occlusion inside the nostril, gradient out in the cast shadow from darker to lighter, like that just works. Um, and we'd be clever to understand that.
hmm.
Now, there's small variations that happen inside of in every lighting situation. Like for example, the way that this like hits as a cast shadow, and really the rest of this all is in shadow is relatively infrequent. Usually, you find like a bit of light that passes through here, and sometimes a little kind of plane of light that hits the wing of the nose as it kind of pops out. Her
Yeah.
nose is quite kind of narrow and pointy, so it doesn't have that. Um, but what that means then is that like this, like everything above that plane shift here, ends up being like a darker value than certainly than the one that's below
Hmm.
it. Whereas if you had that sort of light coming through, sorry, coming, da da da, one second.
Mm.
Why is that functionality not working? Yes. Whereas if we had this, I think we need to make sure that this was lighter, for example, than the reflected light that we're using.
Hmm.
Yeah, but the difference, of course, is like obviously pretty massive. But I mean, that's the kind of thing too. And what strengthens my resolve about it is that that is exactly the kind of thing I would correct without the model. without the source image of the model or anything being present. You know what I
I think so.
mean? Yeah,
It's there's some things that you don't need the reference for to make a stronger drawing.
yeah,
Um, yeah.
yeah. I've gotten into a practice, and this is both from a aesthetic perspective, but I think also from, it works a bit from a just a practical fundamentals perspective. Um, of working like without my source image or without the model.
Hmm.
Not the entire time, um, but spending conscious periods of time working without the model. Taking 20 minutes, and just going through and trying to make the drawing make sense. Not even exactly as you remember it, but like just analyzing the head and the lighting situation and saying, based on what I know, it should be like this, and drawing for that, like, without something immediately there to contradict it.
Hmm.
And I think the overall outcome is not so dissimilar from what you find yourself doing when you're looking at the model all the time or the source image all the time. So I think we are uh, creating a synthesis of the fundamentals as we know them versus the thing that we see. This just maybe puts a finer point on it.
Hmm.
Yeah. The other thing, by the way, this is maybe a lot bit digressive. I'm a digressor, Julian. I'm a
Okay.
serial digressor. It's my lifestyle. So I'm just going to go into it positively.
Sure.
I've been doing a lot of, um, so I'm here in Italy and my days are pretty chilled out. But around noon, I'll make myself a coffee, and there's like right down the street from where I'm staying, there's like this porta, door to the medieval part of the town,
Huh.
Porto Romano. And there's these sort of marble ledges by it. So I'll take my coffee there, and I'll go sit down in the sunshine. I'll bring a book with, or not a book, but a sketchbook with me. And I'll write out whatever thoughts I happen to have that day. Um, be they artistic, emotional, whatever. Um, mine right now tend to mostly be emotional, not artistic. But I think the artistic version of this would work equally as well, if not better. Um, but once I do this for a series of days, I have a habit then of like, looking back on the thing that I wrote 5 days ago and the thing that I'm writing today. It's a great way to really consciously watch your the way you think about something evolve, which naturally has an effect on how you're able to manifest the evolution that you want because it's a conscious, evaluatable thing outside of you. Um, and I've started recommending this to students a lot. It's like, keep an art journal. I mean, it shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes a day. And I know without it being a habit, it's difficult to manifest that. Um, but there's something inevitably that you do once a day that involves you sitting down somewhere that wouldn't prevent you from also writing in a little journal for
Yeah.
that time period. So just couple those two habits together and um, get the things that are unconsciously in your head out of your head and onto something and watch them grow and evaluate them. Uh, I think, from any perspective, be it just fundamentals, growth, et cetera, to like artistic conception, I just think it's incredibly valuable to do. Mm.
Yeah, I can see that. That does
Uh,
sound very peaceful though.
oh,
Grabbing
it's
a
nice.
coffee and then walking out to somewhere.
Yeah. I mean,
How
it's
is the coffee in Italy? Good.
the coffee in Italy increasingly is like the coffee anywhere in the sense that it's either, governed by sort of big brands like Ely or oh, I forget the other one, Lavazza is the other big one here,
Uh,
which are, sort of bang average coffees. Um, but then what's happening now is the like kind of specialty coffee concept.
yeah,
Um, wherein now they're like, but if you have specialty coffee in one place, in a lot of ways, it's like specialty coffee in other places, in that
yeah,
everybody's sourcing beans from like South America and Africa and roasting them themselves at like lower roast temperatures and stuff. So you're getting this unique flavor profile for each one, but the variety is actually then what becomes similar between from having coffee in Rome or having coffee in Jersey City, by
mm,
some boutique roaster. And I say that only as a good thing. I think like an evolving coffee culture is the best thing on earth. And up until recently, like I couldn't find that in Rome, like that there was only like the Italian specific kind of branded coffee, but there's now at least one fully specialty coffee roaster in Rome that makes amazing cups of coffee.
very nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
I always hunt down specialty coffee shops wherever I go. So
yeah,
it's nice to hear that there's one in Rome. So when I visit,
yeah. The
I
the
can
the
find
best
one.
one I ever had actually was there's a place called Nomad Coffee just outside the medieval district in Barcelona.
Oh,
Um,
Barcelona. Okay.
oh man, I still remember the coffees from there. Like they were. Yeah, they just really know what they're doing, and it aligns with what I like. Um,
Nice.
a memorable cup of coffee from them.
Do you usually take it as an espresso or do you have like filter coffees or pour overs?
Yeah, yeah. I've never become one of the like I see these guys that get like I don't know even what the brewing process is. It's kind of like a drip coffee, but it's like a single cup drip. It's not my favorite. If anything, like I like to have in the morning a cappuccino.
Mm.
Like later in the day, I could have like an Americano, But I
Hmm.
do like the espresso brewing process. Like I like that particular flavor profile that comes out of that.
That's fair. Yeah. I I'm more of the pour over single serve filter thing
Yeah,
myself, but um that's just because of what I'm familiar with. If I had an
yeah.
espresso machine, I would do espresso. But I hear that that just takes so much time to dial in and stuff.
Yeah, it's funny, like with so many things, there's a consumer level and a pro level. And I
Yeah.
think if you're pro level, it takes forever to dial in.
Yeah.
I have like a consumer level espresso machine. It's a Smeg machine. It has a few different settings. I can set the overall temperature, but I mean the pressure is I don't have any control over that.
I see.
So it does a kind of a replacement level espresso, which is probably where my ability to evaluate probably hits its ceiling at consumer level anyway.
Hmm.
So it's kind of suited to
Oh,
me.
as long as you enjoy it, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I definitely accused of being a coffee snob. What I really like is coffee variety. I like places that take their coffee seriously and to have like a different, variety experience. If you're just serving up the same coffee that everybody in the world serves up, that's fine. But it's not an experience, is it?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Which is, to come back to drawing really is my feeling about drawing in general. I want to see in the world, if I could proliferate anything, it's as many unique points of view on realism as we can possibly have. That's what I want. I want an education that encourages and engenders the development of a person's for lack of a better phrase, unique voice. We all have one, but that's not like a fait accompli. Because you have one doesn't mean you can use it. You need to
Mhm.
like cultivate it. You need to learn to trust it. You need to understand its language and how it makes itself apparent. These things don't just arrive on the day you're born. Like they need to be worked on. And I think it's a flaw in realism, realistic training that we don't hear enough about what personal development looks like.
Mm. Yeah. I feel like not always, but you see uh people doing formulaic things when like I go on YouTube, for instance, and I see you there, and that's great. But I also see a lot of a lot of people like ten people drawing um
Like the Loomis method?
the Loomis method. Yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
what? I can't think of the name. All I'm coming up with is like the Riley head. But um 10 people saying this is the Loomis head, circle, cut off the sides, and then
Yeah.
I think a lot of it's good. I think it's great um in its own way, but if everyone's learning to do it the same way, then I think I think you can start having your voice come out earlier. Like just do it how you want to,
Mm.
and maybe you can do it on the side, but I think it's important to do the things that you want to do. Like if you want to draw
Mm.
it, however you want to draw it. Oh,
Yeah, find the components that fit you instead of, fitting yourself to the components.
yeah.
Yeah. No, I really agree about that. It was my it's, actually I don't have time. It's too long a metaphor. I don't have time for it.
That's fine.
But I'll tell you another time that
Okay.
there was a moment that really